Welcome back to 209 Prep Sports. Scott, Grant, myself, we're back in the studio. Today, we're going to be revisiting some of the COVID stuff that's going on, obviously. We're getting anxiously close to the restart of the high school season in the area. There's some discussion about some of these high schools going back to school relatively soon. So that's all, well and good.
Not soon enough.
A little bit later in the show, we should have a guest calling in, Skyler May, of St. Mary's women's golf team. She's going to be calling in and talking about her experiences with golf at the high school level, and she's made a commitment to play in college as well. So it'll be fun to have her on, learn a little bit more about that. So let's jump it off with where we're at with kind of things as we go today. We got an email, I guess, over the last week, kind of discussing parental behavior. There was some things that people were asking generically, I guess, about what our thoughts were about, parental behavior. I guess the parental involvement, I guess, would be the more correct term. We have, from the youth level all the way to the high school level, we're still youth, so we still have, they're not adults. They can't make adult decisions or sign a contract or anything like that. But, their parents are highly, not always, but, sometimes highly involved.
Yeah. And that's, this is going to be, I think, a continuing subject as we keep moving forward, because it's something that seems like, we see a lot of, whether you're following stuff on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, it seems like we see a lot of negativity in terms of, how parents conduct themselves. But, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of content for us to cover on that and moving forward. In fact, I think there might even be, the chance of us committing a whole show to that and some sound bites that we'll probably have. But you're right. You can't necessarily hold parents accountable. I guess you can to a certain degree. I mean, we've heard of things as far as to the extreme of them actually having events, whether it's baseball, volleyball, whatever, where parents have gotten out of control. I think Little League baseball is probably one of the biggest culprits, where they've actually had games and not allowed parents to go. Because it got so bad. But it's definitely a subject that we're going to spend some time on. I'm not sure who sent the email in, but it's a great topic. And moving forward, if there's other people out there that have stuff that they want us to talk about, email us and let us know. But that's a pretty big deal. I can tell you from a personal standpoint, I've gotten a chance to see a lot of different sports at the youth level with my kids coming up. Even experienced myself. There's a couple instances firsthand that I saw when I was an athlete, some 100 years ago or whatever. But it's definitely something that is a hot topic. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of it. The more youth sports expands, I think the more we're starting to see of it. And I'm sure that part of the conversation is what contributes to that. I think we all have our own opinions on that.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that I think, sport to sport, obviously it's going to be, the parental involvement is inclusive at some point, but the reality of it is, and I'll speak to a couple of different sports, baseball, softball. Softball, you'll go to a softball tournament, a showcase where kids are being recruited, and the parents pitch a tent and put up their pop-ups right behind the plate. So if a college coach is coming to watch your daughter play or your son play baseball or softball, where do you think he's going to want that he or she is going to want to stand? Do you really think that they're going to want to stand in a down the right field or left field line, or do you think they want to stand behind the plate where they have the best view possible? So, I think that when you have a child or a kid that's about ready to be recruited or is in the process of being recruited, I think it's very important that you understand what the intent is and how this is going to happen. So sometimes you have to put your own comfortability and your own desires of having the best seat in the house aside for the betterment of everybody that's around.
Yeah, absolutely. And, going back to what I think influences some of these parents, in my experience, it seems like a lot of the times it's parents that really didn't participate as much when they were younger. And so they don't understand the full concept of what's going on. I might be wrong there, but at least a lot of what I've seen that's contributed to it. I think a lot of parents are hung up on the fact that my kid needs to get a scholarship to go to college. And they hang their hat on that. And so now all of a sudden they're a huge stakeholder. And if something's not going right for them, they're going to voice their opinion. And good, bad, or indifferent, a lot of times they don't do a very good job of voicing their opinion, whether it's chewing out an umpire or getting mad at the coach because the coach doesn't understand my child. And they're ruining their future. We can go on and on about this, and I do want to dive deeper into it as we move forward. But it's an interesting concept to know that there are organizations that are now either banning parents from attending or keeping them at a distance, and we're starting to see that more and more. You had mentioned something about parents can't sign contracts. Well, I can tell you, we belong to an organization with one of my daughters that things were, I think, holistically throughout the country and in other countries as well, things were starting to get a little bit out of hand. Not so much with our organization, we had our moments, but they were kind of forward thinking, and they actually did have the parents sign a contract, a behavioral contract, so that they know that if they cross the line based on certain criteria within that contract, they would be asked to leave, and potentially their child could be asked to leave as well. So having a contract like that in place is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's only as good as the paper it's written on, so to speak. And, a lot of times that can cause conflict as well.
Yeah. I've heard it, the parental involvement in golf, and it's a good segue into where we're going, that they're very, for a lack of a better term, I guess they're very aggressive with how their child processes some of the things that go on, from practice to playing to thought processes and things like that. So maybe that's something that we talked to Skylar about. So at this, I think it's one of those things that as we get into this, it's really, it's something I think like you said, I think it's going to be an ongoing conversation. Yeah.
I think where there's a real difficulty in the separation is we talk about support and who supports the athletes, who are the biggest supporters. Well, it's financially, it's, mentally, physically, all the support to these athletes is primarily from the parents. And so, we see both ends of the spectrum. And Grant, you're not that far removed from it, but we'll see parents that are really involved. They really want to be involved. And then we see the parents that pull up and drop Johnny off of practice and, don't show up until he's done. And you never see from them or hear from them,
So like I said, it's a pretty good segue, and Skyler May, I'd like to introduce her. Skyler is a senior golfer at St. Mary's High School, and Skyler is going to be. We've been lucky enough to have her call in and talk about her experiences. She's between classes or on break or at the end of her day, so we're going to go ahead and just jump right into that. Not to cut anybody off, but hey, Sky, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. How's your day been going so far?
It's good.
Good.
Very good. Yep.
So, I guess you and I know each other pretty well, and so some of the guys in the studio are probably going to ask some questions as well. But why don't you just give us a little bit of a histrionics on yourself? Like, kind of give us your background, how things got started. How you ended up playing golf.
Mm-hmm. So I was introduced into golf at the age of 5 by my parents. And then around the age of 9, I was then put in tournaments, and that's just how I really started the golfing process, and I really fell in love with the sport. And around sophomore year in high school is when I really decided to put all my effort and focus towards golf. And since then, my golf game has elevated, and I'm just loving the ride.
Well, I mean, and you're lucky enough to be able to travel and, or lucky enough or unlucky enough, I guess, because you have a busy schedule at St. Mary's. So kind of talk to us about that. How does golf work for you guys? Like, what is a typical, week like? And then, so I guess, from Monday to, the next Sunday, what is a typical week like?
Mm-hmm. So for high school golf, we'll do Monday we'll have off, or we'll do a light workout, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we'll practice as a team, and then Friday we have off, and then the weekends is when I just put in my own time. And then for separate outside of high school, I try to practice 3 to 4 times a week and just put in the work there on the course. And I see my coach weekly just to stay in motion and to make sure everything's up to par and everything. Sure.
Do you think that you felt like when you got into golf, did you know how in detail it would be, like how much work was going to be involved and how much working out was going to be involved, or were you kind of surprised by that?
No. I just got into it when I was younger, so I had no clue where it was going to lead me and everything. But now that I'm older, and the more time you put into this game, the more successful you're going to be. So I just always make sure to set time aside to do it, because I know it's going to help me in the future, and just make sure the more time you put in, the more successful I have on the course.
Hey, Skylar, this is Scott Bryant. Thanks for being part of our show today.
Of course.
Yeah. Hey, we always think of golf as primarily an individual sport, and obviously playing for St. Mary's, there's a team aspect to it as well. And when we talk to some of the other athletes, whether it's softball or basketball or football or whatever, they also talk about their experiences outside of high school in terms of participating in a club. Maybe you can kind of enlighten us a little bit on how that's played out for you. If outside of high school, are you part of a club, or is it something that you do individually and you enter into tournaments and do stuff like that on your own?
Yeah, so golfing outside of high school is all individual. So you make your own schedule, and you set the time for where you need to practice and everything. And traveling is all up to you, but going outside of California or outside of your local community and playing in tournaments is where college coaches really get to see you. Just
sure.
The more you travel, the more the better the opportunity that you'll be on the coaches, you'll get on coaches' radars and everything. So just the more you travel and put your name out there, the better you're going to be later on if you want to play golf in college.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think that's applicable to a lot of other sports as well. Talking about travel, where are some of the places that you've gone to play outside of California, and maybe kind of enlighten us on some of the places that you enjoyed the most?
Mm-hmm. So when I was younger, I traveled to North Carolina a couple times to play in a tournament down there, and then Arizona, San Diego, those places.
What's your favorite?
North Carolina, probably. For sure.
Yeah, North Carolina's beautiful.
Where'd you play at North Carolina?
Mid-Pines.
So pretty good track.
Yeah, it was a really nice course.
How do you feel like you balance, with the demanding, golf's a little bit different than other sports, and I know you guys, you don't play 18, right? You only play 9 when you have a match or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, with all the when you do play 18 or with your practices and weights and all that stuff, do you have a hard time balancing the demands of golf and school at the same time, or how have you been able to manage? Because St. Mary's is education wise is, pretty demanding as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just want to always make sure you're on top of your work, and anytime you could get ahead on schoolwork is probably a good idea, because you don't know what time allows you, like later on in the week, and how flexible you're going to be. So just being organized and good time management has definitely helped me out for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. You've done a great job of, like you said, of time management and all of that. You've put in a lot of practice time, you put in a lot of work, and now you've gotten to the point that you've decided that you want to play in college. Maybe walk us through what the recruitment process has been for you. You don't have to go into great detail, but we always like for athletes to share that, because we're hoping that there are other athletes that might look to you and your experience and use that as kind of a guiding point for them moving forward. So maybe kind of tell us a little bit about, how you got recruited, and how that process went.
Mm-hmm. So in between sophomore and junior year, I met with this lady up in SAC, and she has her own recruiting business, and she basically told me the layout on how to get to play D1 golf, and she gave me some good advice, and she also planned out my tournament schedule of what tournaments I needed to be in to get my name out there and everything. And then she also told us that reaching out to coaches and kind of bugging them about hey, I'm interested and everything, just making sure you put your effort towards that coach if you really want to go to the school. And in San Diego, in the summer, I played down in San Diego, and I had a good round and everything. And after emailing coaches and after just talking to them and communicating to them is when the Santa Clara coach reached out to me there. And after that, I set up a visit to go see the school and talk to her a little bit about the program she had going and everything. And once I saw the school and how she interacted with me and my mom, it was just, I knew that it was the perfect fit and everything. So when you know, you kind of know.
Yeah, and we've had a few other athletes on already, and they've and to a person, they've all said the same thing. You kind of, they've had other offers or other opportunities, not even necessarily offers, but other opportunities. And when they felt like it was home, that's when they kind of settled in. So we could totally see that. What about, you're relatively young, so, but if you had advice to give to a younger Skyler May, or what about, any other younger golfers with aspirations of playing in college, what do you think, what would you do differently, or what advice would you have to somebody that was kind of trying to break into the sport, I guess?
I definitely say having confidence in your game and believing in yourself is one thing I kind of struggled and realized later on as I got older, and I wish I just listened to my parents and coaches, that believing in yourself will really take you farther. And so just always keeping your head up high and trusting the process has really elevated my game. So just keep your head high and it will all work out, and put in the work and you'll see the results.
That's great advice. That's something that regardless of sport, I think that kind of transcends across the board.
Yeah, very mature, and for us, before we get into the next layer, so we do, when we end these calls, we do this rapid fire, and Scott's gonna fire Scott or Grant are gonna fire 10 questions at you, and it's just answer them as quickly as possible. But before we get there, what do you have anybody you'd like to kind of thank or send a shout out to, or anybody that should be on our radar for helping you get to where you've been?
My parents and my coach and my grandparents, they've always been there for me, and they've given me the best opportunity to be successful. So definitely a huge thank you to them, because I wouldn't be where I am without them.
Awesome.
That's awesome. We're really looking forward to what lies ahead for you and following you through your college career, and really hopefully we'll get to see you playing in the Pro Tour someday and doing well, and then you can pay your parents back.
So Grant's gonna fire some questions at you. You have 90 seconds to answer as many as you can. They're super simplistic. They're not.
It's just for fun.
Yeah, we're just trying to bring some levity to it. So go ahead.
All right, here we go. What's your favorite food?
Pasta.
Favorite athlete? Doesn't have to be a golfer, but it can be.
Lexi Thompson. She's a golfer.
Who's your biggest influence?
My mom.
Pre-game meal. Favorite pre-game meal?
Pasta.
This is a big one. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yeah.
Good answer.
Do you have any superstitions?
No, not really.
You could have dinner with one person, dead or alive. Who would it be?
I don't know. I'd probably just have dinner with my family. I love my family.
Good answer.
That's awesome.
Your favorite social media platform?
Instagram.
If you could do anything in the world other than what you're doing, what would it be?
Go snowboarding.
Nice.
And last one, favorite movie?
Soul Surfer.
Oh, that's a good
awesome.
one. Yeah. Awesome.
Skylar, I can't thank you enough. You know, you and I have known each other. Yeah, you and I have known each other a long, long time. I've watched you play softball since you were just a little kid. And, you know, I watched you blossom from this little, short little fast girl with big feet that could, just run and into this, amazing person that, your heart's in the right place, your head's in the right place. You know, you're as solid as they come. And I think it's important for us to have people like you on to help the girls, from our area to understand that the opportunities are there, and it's not just in the primary sports, and not that golf's not a primary sport, but it's just a little bit different of a thought process for a lot of people. So we're very grateful for you to be here today. I know you're busy and you got homework and practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Skylar. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kai. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
All right. Bye.
Wow. What an awesome interview that was.
She's a phenomenal kid. I mean, I've known her for a long, long, long time. I mean, and she, great family, obviously, but she, nobody outworks that kid. I'm telling you.
Well, yeah, you could just tell, I personally haven't ever met her, and this is the first time I spoke to her, but you could just tell in her voice, she's very mature. She's very focused. She's very well spoken. And you just know that she's going to do well. Yeah. Just by the way she conducts herself.
We added a layer. I mean, we're getting a little bit, we're getting kind of professional here. So this interview was actually brought to you by Herrera Insurance and Financial Services, which is the premier commercial and farm and life insurance agency in the 209. For all your personal and business insurance needs, you can locate us at www.hifsinc.com. or by phone at 209-649-8863. HIFS Inc. is a proud sponsor of the 209 Prep Sports Podcast, helping our youth fulfill their athletic dreams and endeavors. So yeah, it's a cool little thing, golf. We had a baseball player on already. We've had an athletic director, and so we talked about this as we jumped this thing off, and we really talked about making sure that we covered everything. What I mean? And so it was great to have somebody like Skylar and have her discuss different things, and I think it's important that they're to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, for sure. And I look forward to having her back on at some point so that she can kind of tell us how things are going and what's been going on with her. So Skylar, if you're still listening, we're going to have you back on at some point and look forward to talking to you again. But to your point, Chris, I think we received a couple emails this week, and one of them was talking about parental involvement in youth sports, which I think maybe we'll go back to that. But what was the other one that we got, Grant?
Yeah, the other one's pretty simple. I mean, you guys can answer it pretty simply. It just says, how do you recommend someone to be on the show?
Well, we talked to Jim Sells last week at Venture. He's the athletic director there, and we told him we'd like them to recommend guys, right? I mean, we'd rather, and girls. I mean, I use guys as a broad term, but we'd like our guests to be recommended to us, or call it in, because much like golf, some of the coaches are off-campus coaches. They're not heavily involved in their day-to-days, and so, I think you get into sports like trap shooting, or, I know that like the MLL now has a bass fishing tournaments. so
esports is becoming a big,
esports.
big deal.
Yeah, esports is a large
at the college level too.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, there was AAU had an esports an esports Fortnite tournament, an esports FIFA tournament, and an esports 2K tournament. And you could sign up online. Everything's virtual. Put your own teams together. So, there's a lot that's out there. We have a couple of kids in our area that do rodeo and, and things like that. So, I think, if you want to recommend yourself, we're open. Like, we would love to talk to anybody, about what their experiences are. Not even necessarily if you're being recruited. I think, we're not trying to focus on just the kids that are being recruited. We want the kids that are heavily involved in these sports because it's something that's taking their mind off of something, but also giving them something else to play, to focus on,
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, definitely email us. Let us know who you would recommend. Give us a little background, some contact info. That's going to go a long ways, and we'll reach out and see if they're interested.
Yeah, our email address, I left that off. Sorry. I know that's what you're leading to, Grant, and I got my big mouth running.
Best color man in the business.
Yeah. So prepsports209 at yahoo.com. Again, prepsports209 at yahoo.com. And so, I guess the hot topic of the day in our area is we're in the third consecutive week of the red tier. So we've gotten ourselves into a position where the schools are now somewhat allowed to begin opening. We've seen it already with some of the schools that applied for the waivers at the youth or the elementary level I think it was up to 5th grade, and there was a bunch that opened in the area. And now I saw this morning Escalon was sending buses out, so I think that they opened at the elementary school level as well.
Can't wait for it.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's it's polarizing, dude. Every time I look on any social media, people are fighting over stuff still, and
yeah, and that's unfortunate, and that's something that we're never going to delve into on our platform. But regardless of what your political view is, we're all in this together. We need to get through it. I've said this probably 10 times on the show already. It's the hand we've been dealt. We need to learn how to best deal with it. The biggest advice that I think I can give, and we've spoken to a lot of other student athletes in the area. If you're not able to participate with your team, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing stuff on your own. In fact, even if you are participating with your team, you should still be putting in time on your own, because coaches are limited to how much time they can spend with the athletes. And if you aspire to be like Skylar and play golf in college, where she said it herself, she has to put in a lot of time on her own. I mean, what a difficult sport golf is. I think we can all attest to that. I mean, it's not easy. I love playing. I'm terrible, but I love playing. So, you get to be good at something like that by putting the time in. Now, if you're focused on putting in time, from the coach says from this time to this time, we're together as a team, we're going to be conditioning, we're going to be working out, whatever, and that's all you're doing, that's fine. But don't have any misguided aspirations that you're going to be playing in college, because you're really limiting yourself.
Yeah. I mean, and we've talked about this kind of ad nauseum offline about, the mental approach to this is almost as important as the physical approach to playing a sport. You have to overcome failure, and, to put your mind, it's always that. I think you even said it a couple of podcasts ago about, it's not like what you're doing it's what you're doing not what you're doing in the light, it's what you're doing in the dark.
Yeah.
And so, when the eyes aren't on you is when you're actually getting better, and so, and I think it's hard for, these kids to kind of start thinking, shoot, I don't know if we're going to even play. Why should I be doing the work? And so the ones that I think that we're going to see have a ton of success are the ones that didn't worry about, if it was going to happen, they prepared either way.
Yeah. Don't look at these obstacles as limitations. Look at them as opportunities. Hey, I'm not getting to work out with my team as much as I'd like to, but I have an opportunity to work out even that much more on my own, so you can really focus on the things that you think you need to improve, where maybe in practice as a team, you're working on things as a team and you're getting better that way. But it's really an opportunity to for you to work on things individually. And so hopefully kids are embracing that. I know firsthand, just in the area driving around, seeing kids practice soccer out on the soccer field is like good for you. It's like there's a group of kids, and I won't tell you where I usually go work out, but there's the same group of kids that are climbing the fence to get on the field, and they're out there every single day at the same time, and they're practicing together. And I'm just thinking to myself, they've really taken the initiative to try to get themselves better. Yeah. And mentally, they're probably that much farther ahead than everybody else because they're not, sitting around in front of a TV screen for most of the day.
Well, they're wired differently. I mean, they have, it's that self-initiative, that self-drive. But Grant, I think you can remember when I used to coach you guys, in baseball when you're in high school, in season, you guys always used to like to go down and play L-ball. We have those lowered dunk hoops where these guys would go down.
Everybody's an all-star.
Yeah. So these guys, so let me ask you that, how did that feel? Because I used to stop you guys from doing it, and I'm sure it made you guys mad, but, at the time, how did you feel? And then now in retrospect as an adult, do you understand why?
No, yeah, it sucked back then. It was so much fun to go after practice something and just go and made ourselves feel good we could dunk, and just play on a small hoop and have fun. But in retrospect, especially going to a small school when you only have you have 12, 13 guys on the team, you can't afford any injury. So, I mean, if it was like in the summer, that's one thing when you're not doing anything, but I guess in season if something were to happen, it'd really hurt your team, and it's not worth it.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that, right? You and I are every single day, and Scott, about even pro sports, and we're seeing with the direct impact that COVID's had at the pro sport level. With last week the Patriots played without their starting quarterback because he tested positive for COVID. So if you scale back even at the high school level, and if you're any type of competitor at all, and if you're when you start the season, if your goal isn't to win the league and then win the section, then you're probably not wired right to play the sports at the next level.
Yeah, for sure. And I love your point on that. If you're an athlete and your coach comes up to you and says, what are your goals this season? And you don't know how to answer that question, what have you been doing with your time?
Yeah.
What have you been doing with your time? Set goals, set short-term goals, set long-term goals. Again, if you just want to participate, that's great too, but not everybody wants to play sports in college, and that's fine, but you still will play a vital role on your team. Not everybody, we talked about the statistics, on average, we're 2% or less are playing in college. And so, for every, X amount of kids that are playing on the team, only a fraction of that's going to go on to play, but it doesn't make you any less important than anybody else.
Well, and I think that's probably a good question here too, Grant. So even going back to thinking about when you played, you really never had a passion to play at the next level. I mean, either way, you kind of had your idea of what you wanted to do at college. So, but how did that, when you played on those teams, did you feel like you were less important, or did you feel like you were less needed? I mean,
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I wasn't particularly great in any sport, but I think I did pretty well in all three sports that I played. And I knew that even though there was only a couple of guys getting looked at in each thing, you make them better too. If you're taking plays off and you're not giving it your best, you're not only hurting yourself, you're hurting them too, your whole team.
Yeah.
So
you were the consummate team player. I look back at those years, and from football to baseball to basketball, I wouldn't go as far as to say that you weren't, that good. I would say that you had a role at every sport, that you did what you're supposed to do. And the problem is that when you're in school, in high school, you're made up from the same area. So whatever high school you go to, unless it's a private school, everybody lives in that same community. Mm-hmm. So your brother, your teammate, who becomes your brother, if he's the one or she's the one that's getting recruited because they're talented, it's your responsibility to do your job to help them fulfill their dreams.
Absolutely. If it's a team sport, you have something to do with that.
Sure.
They're successful, obviously they're successful by the time and the effort and the work that they put in themselves. We've talked about that ad nauseum, but if you're on, who's going to go watch the football team that's 0-10 and scores, 14 points all year long, and you're an offensive player hoping to play in college? It really reduces your chances. Yeah. No matter how good you are. I mean, they always say, if you're good enough, they'll find you. And I think to a certain degree, that's very true. But you also have to surround yourself with good people that are going to help get you there. And that includes teammates. We talk about having good coaches and having good influences, asking Skylar, who was an influence on your life and stuff like that. But a lot of that falls back on your teammates. And I can tell you firsthand, my experience in high school, I was surrounded by a lot of great guys that I played at the next level, in large part because of them.
Yeah.
So
and a little bit of it is you chasing your dream too. So when you left, you had to take a route, and I think it's different now. Like you get kids that, I want to play in college, but I'm not playing at JUCO because I'm too good for JUCO. I played at JUCO and I played D1 baseball after I played at JUCO.
Your best athletes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have JUCO teams across the country that can outplay a lot of 4-year schools.
Yeah.
So there's no shame in that game. I mean, and so, for me, it's understand, and it's helping, that's the whole premise of this podcast. I mean, really, we're teammates to these kids. I mean, the initiative that we took to get this thing started to elevate these kids and give them a platform to kind of share their experiences. And really, I feel like, I don't necessarily feel this way. I'm hoping that it creates a team environment. So every guest that we have, they have this tie to each other that can help them promote the people that are coming up.
Absolutely.
We all set that, right? We all we're all the frontiersmen into whatever it may be. So we help lay the groundwork for the people behind us.
Yeah. And to your point, if let's say that I'm 8th or 9th grade and I aspire to be a pitcher in college. Well, go back and listen to Shelby Lackey. Listen to his story. Listen to the pitfalls and the obstacles that he had to overcome, because that really is, his pathway really was a good kind of guide to get there. The things that he had to confront, the things that he had to overcome, really, if that's what you choose to do. And that's why I think we really want to have a cornucopia of, you like that word, cornucopia? Yeah. A cornucopia of
deep dictionary there.
Athletes, so we get all these different aspects, because I always use this analogy. It's like if Wayne Gretzky didn't get a hockey stick put in his hand at a young age, would we ever seen the great one?
Yeah.
Maybe he would have been a mediocre baseball player.
Well, Larry Walker is a perfect example. Larry Walker was a highly touted hockey player.
Absolutely.
Like one of the top in the country.
Tom Glavine.
Yeah, Tom Glavine. And these guys all play hockey now in men's adult leagues after their careers are over.
Every hockey player eventually becomes a beer league hockey player, no matter how good you are.
But, with that being said, Larry Walker got introduced to baseball and
Hall of Fame.
He's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. I mean, and a multi-gazillionaire on top of it.
Yeah, that's all right.
You go across the board with guys like that. But yeah, I mean, and just to kind of, we'll put a bow on this thing and kind of wrap it up, but let's go ahead. I'll give you guys a little bit of an update. So I talked to Shelby yesterday. He's now in a fall camp with the Rockies. They invited 28 or 30 guys to camp. They're going to play a 26 or 27 game schedule against a bunch of minor leaguers.
That's a pretty elite.
Yeah.
And only 28 guys.
And he told me, he goes, he said, Chris, hey, they gave me my locker yesterday, and they said, you're in this room, and I go in that room, and it's all first and second round picks and him. And he's like, well, that's either really, really good, or maybe I'm the guy that's picking up their laundry or something. But he goes, it was pretty special to be considered, Riley Pint and Rollison, and these guys are all, again, first and second round picks. Awesome. Riley Pint throws his bullpen the other day. He's 102 and spotting stuff up, and not even in the big leagues yet.
Wow.
So so Shelby's doing very, very well. I talked to my daughter, Gabby, obviously. She's having the time of her life. They're lifting in the mornings, very COVID conscious. They test regularly, but they lift in the morning. She goes to class. She has individual workouts in the afternoons. Then they do team workouts a couple days a week. Saturdays they have a team workout. So she's settling in well. She's competing. She's super excited about it. But these are the things that you guys are going to get to do. Hopefully, those of you that are listening and loving what we're bringing to you, these are the opportunities that are out there. And we're going to have a couple of special guests coming up as well. We have some pretty good people on deck, and we're excited to have. And again, we're going to spread that around across different sports. So that's the beauty of that. So. Yep. Again, this segment has been brought to you by Herrera Insurance and Financial Services Incorporated. We are the premier commercial and farm and life insurance agency in the 209. For all of your personal and business insurance needs, you can locate us at www.hifsinc.com or by phone at 209-649-8863. HIFS Inc. is a proud sponsor of the 209 Prep Sports Podcast, helping our youth to fulfill their athletic dreams and endeavors. I think that's about it, fellas. I mean, unless you guys have anything more you want to add, I think we can tie this one up.
The only thing I have to add is just to confirm pineapple does belong on pizza.
Agreed, but I'm a pineapple and pepperoni guy, not a pineapple and ham guy.
Pineapple Canadian bacon.
None at all.
Pineapple Canadian bacon, and then I think you said a little bit
every now and then get a little crazy, put some jalapenos.
Have a great day, everybody.
Goodbye.